Okay, I'm trying to get... Hold on, stand by one. Having problems. I cannot get my camera to show up. Stand by. There we go. Holy crap, what a problem. All right, guys, welcome to an impromptu show. I have a special guest, or have two special guests with us today, as you probably saw on the splash screen. I'll bring them on in a minute. But before we do that, let me get to part of the problem is I did something kind of backwards. But welcome to Break the Cycle. I am your host, Duane. I am not an attorney nor a therapist. I'm an individual much like you who has developed some tips and techniques that help me through this interesting experience that I share with you to help you get your life back and minimize the effects of toxic abuse. Remember, only a licensed professional can diagnose somebody with a personality disorder, so do not go around diagnosing your ex because it hurts your credibility and it will cause you problems. Obviously, learn about the behavioral patterns and the patterns, what they do, but keep it at that. Don't go around telling everyone you figured them out because it will hurt your credibility, and that is the one thing we don't want to lose. If you like what's going on here, consider becoming a channel member. And once you do that, you get special badges, custom emojis, names listed in the credits, access to member-only events, and a member-only Discord. If you want to get SMS notifications when I do shows like this, then text DSDLIVE to 844-598-0012. That's DSDLIVE, all one word, 844-598-0012. And we will have phone lines open today for if you guys want to call in. And if you want to call in on that a little bit later, you can do that by dialing 1-424-373-5483 or 1-424-DSD-LIVE. And if you're outside of the United States and or Canada, or if it's just a long-distance call, there's a web interface that you can utilize down below. So on that, let me bring in my my cohorts for today. And I have with me today, I have John Steinbeck from Brainwashing Children and then Eric Carroll from Dad Talk Today. How you guys doing today?
Really great. How you doing?
What's
Duane?
up, fellas?
Eric?
Man, doing good. So we were chatting earlier and thought with the holidays coming up, it might be a good opportunity for us to sit down and just talk about the struggles of trying to deal with the holidays on this. But I guess first, hold on, I need to delete this little thing that's stuck on the screen. God dang it, man. I accidentally put the overlay and I can't get it off the damn screens. It's on all of them. So I tell you what, John, let me pass it on to you. Why don't you tell everyone who you are while I try to fix my side.
Hey, everybody, and thanks for allowing me to jump in today. My name is John Steinbeck. I am the author of Brainwashing Children. It's a book documenting my journey through parental alienation and the solutions I came up with along the way. So I teach via the book, via my YouTube channel, and most of my audience is on Facebook, the same name, Brainwashing Children. And it's just it's been a passion of mine since it happened. Long story short, though, I have recovered my relationship with my son. And today we're back to a full, healthy relationship. And that's my goal for everyone else out there.
And guys, you really got to check out his information, especially John's got the perspective of really having parental alienation, really go in hard. And you have some outstanding techniques and information on how to do that. So definitely check that out. And I'll put links in the show notes and we'll go to the sites a little bit later. Eric, I know everyone probably knows you, but for the few people who don't, who are you and what do you got going on?
My name is Eric Carroll. I am the host of Dad Talk Today. Dad Talk Today is a podcast we started back in 2019. It was a way that I didn't have the money to fight inside the family court, so I took my fight out here to bring awareness as to what's going on. We've been going for about 2.5 years, and I am honored to be sitting here amongst my friends today, John and Duane. I tell you, without these guys, man, we wouldn't have been able to pull some of the stuff that we have off. So thank you guys for being here, and thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, man. And I just want to add, watching what you've accomplished, Eric, in the last couple of years, or since you've started, and the visibility that you're bringing to this and really getting it part of the conversation is phenomenal. And I really appreciate everything you've done and what you're accomplishing. I just wish you all the best on that. And I hope that it keeps going because that's what we need. We need this conversation needs to be more in the mainstream and amongst more people, so that the average person really understands what's going on and what's happening with it. And, you know,
I agree. And it's coming. I mean, we see every week, it seems like more people are starting to talk about it. We're starting to see it on the media a little bit more. Tucker Carlson just did a special on fatherlessness. I hope by, through all of our efforts and what everybody's doing over time, we're going to see this message really start to get out there, because we need that covered. Without it, they just sweep us under the rug. So I think it's coming though, guys.
Yeah, I definitely. So, hey, before we jump into this, I mean, one of the things that, obviously, Eric, the last time I had you on, we were talking about your I Stand with John. So can you kind of give an update on what's going on with that? And I know that this kind of leads into this whole topic that we're going to talk to you about today, about just dealing with the holidays and, being denied access to your kids and that type of thing. What's going on? Is there anything new to report on I Stand with John?
Yeah, so I Stand with John actually is centered around the holidays. Last Thanksgiving, John masked. I did a holiday marathon. He was the first person to sign on, and he came on and told us a little bit about his custody battle and what he was going through. Fought for years in the family law courts, about 3 years, faced false allegations, the silver bullet. Everybody is probably pretty aware of what happened. 2 months after he was on my show, he went to pick up his kids. He was murdered by his ex-father-in-law. We took off right away. We started documenting this, and we just released our first documentary. We did a very public fundraiser where we raised money to get some promotion behind this. So we knew it was going to get out there, but it has exceeded our expectations, and it continues to go on. I noticed we was at around like 1.2, 1.3 million views on that, which is what we pretty much had projected with the promotion that we was going to have behind it. What I didn't know is over a couple of weeks ago, the numbers just started shooting up. And I was kind of busy. I was on the road doing some stuff, and I had a lady that reached out to me the other day. There was another custody shooting, father that went through false allegations. He showed up to get his kids. He was met by his ex-father-in-law who shot him 5 times. The only difference was, in John's case, it was a 9mm. In this case, it was a 45. So she started making videos on TikTok. It's called #JusticeForJustin. And they saw the I Stand with John documentary and started posting about it. I had no idea this was going on, and we just started seeing it shoot up. I am supposed to be interviewing that fiance. It was 2 days before this guy was supposed to be getting married. I am supposed to be interviewing them sometime soon. And it's just sad to know that more and more of these situations are starting to show themselves. Custody shootings is becoming a very big thing. And a lot of these, and what's so scary about it, a lot of these are happening at the police stations. And it seems like it's never the other parent. They get somebody to do it. So I'm hoping we can raise some more awareness, and with what's going on with that, just keep this documentary going out there, because John wanted his story to be told.
Yeah. God, that's horrible, man. It doesn't surprise me. Hey, John, did you have a chance to watch the documentary? What was your take on it?
Yeah, really well done, Eric. I know this is your first documentary. The tech chops were great. Whoever you hired to help you out with that did a really nice job. It's perfect. It really encapsulates what a lot of us went through. The only difference, for instance, between my case and him is that, trigger was never pulled, but I have no doubt that if I could have been made dead some way, it would have happened. No question about it. Now these are severe cases, but basically alienation is emotional murder, and a virtual murder of a human being if it's successful. And this is a case where, on the other side, it was successful. Unfortunately, it was successful in what they wanted to do. They eliminated him from the children's lives. Some love there, huh? So, nice job on the documentary, and that blows me away that it's over 2 million views today. Good job, Eric.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. I think that was the part of John's case that really struck home with everybody is, if you've been through alienation and you hear what he was going through, it kind of made everybody sit back and say, that could have been me, And when I first started this, I didn't go through the silver bullet. I didn't ever experience those type of false allegations. Of course, there was lies and stuff mixed in there, but looking at how these things progress over time, I think if I would have stayed in there, probably would have gotten to that point. At what point does the legislation start to wake up and realize that this is a problem? Guys, somebody was reporting, I got to do a little bit more research upon this. We started off at the beginning of the year saying that, family court was a $55 billion industry. I heard it's made its way up to $65 billion a year. It makes more money than all of the other courts combined. Our legislation knows this is going on. And to be frank, it ticks me off because it's cash for kids is what it is. And we got to make it in.
And Eric, and I just want to just dovetail with what John was saying. You did a fantastic job on that. And I mean, for your I don't want to diminish it by saying very first one. I'll say my son was in the room whenever we were watching it. And he's like, "This is a great documentary." And I go, "Yeah, this is Eric's first one." And he was surprised. So, I mean, I think a lot of people saw that and just, it was a quality product. And you definitely did that story justice. And I'm glad to hear that you're going to be doing more interviews and stuff, because honestly, getting this out to where people understand that this is really happening on a reoccurring basis and it's not just, I hate the fact that it's not a one-off, but until people really start to understand what's happening, the impacts, the injustice of it all, that's what you're doing, man. That's what's really going to start making some serious changes on this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I get every once in a while people that tune into the channel to see what's going on, and they're like, I love what you do. I'm glad you're bringing awareness to this, but it gets me so down. These stories are just so bad. And I'm like, we're reporting on what the media is not reporting. I wish we had happier stuff to report on, but somebody's got to get these stories out. And the fact that they're not doing it, we see it on the local media, but as far as the national media, most of the time they stay silent. So guys, let's keep pushing that out there. And again, I couldn't have done it without the two guys that's on the screen right here. John Steinbeck has been a huge support of Dad Talk Today. And so has Duane, getting the word out. And, I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys. It was a learning experience for sure, making our first documentary. We went out there and shot this and said, we're going to make it a documentary. And boy, was that a lot of work.
Oh yeah. I think people who aren't involved with, even just the basic YouTube stuff, there's a lot of work that goes on the back end. When I was watching, I was like going, holy crap. And I just want to say, because I know John said, hey, whoever you paid helped you. If I remember correctly, you did the editing. Eric, you pulled this together.
Robert Garza has been one of my right-hand guys. He's been through 43 false CPS allegations and has fought off every single one. 43. Think about that. This guy has went all over the country with me this past year, and he helped shoot and helped edit this. But yeah, for 2 months of our lives, we was waking up at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, going to sleep 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, sitting here talking on the screen like we are now, editing this out. Social media has made it to where people's attention spans are short. And one of the challenges is you don't want to have somebody on the screen too long. You want it to be changing every 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So for an hour and 10-minute long video, there were so many scenes in there. My whole computer was taken up just making this one documentary. But I think it was received well. I really do. And we're wanting to do some more stuff like that. It becomes a little bit different when you can be at the place. They can see where this went down. They can hear other people's stories behind it, and we're definitely proud of it. But I got to give a shout out to Robert Garza. I couldn't have done it without him, man. Yeah,
man, you got a great group of people over there who are helping make this stuff happen. I think even Melissa Isaac's been, unless I screwed her name up, she's been a tremendous help too, right?
Melissa Isaac, she's a father's rights attorney. She has helped me so much. She's really one of the attorneys that I wish the other attorneys would take an example from. She really wants this business to crumble as an attorney, which is very, very rare. But she grew up with this. She was abused when she used to ask to see her dad. She was alienated pretty extreme. We documented some of that on the podcast, but that's one I would also like to show a documentary about, because
I did an interview with her, I think last year, where she went into that, and it was amazing. I mean, great conversation and really, really well received. Yeah. So,
hey, Duane.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll be right back. I forgot a charger for my laptop and it's dying, so I'll be back 1 minute.
No problem, man.
You know this is live.
Man, amateur. As I say that,
don't you hate it when that happens?
You know what? I can't say anything because I completely screwed up when this whole thing started. That's what happens whenever. So guys, here, just so you know, I mean, normally I do one guest. So I'm like, hey, I'll do 3. Not a big deal. Well, none of my stuff is set up for it. And then I had an appointment. I had a coaching call that I finished right before this. And I was like, oh crap. So I'm sitting here trying to pull this together. And then when you do that in the last minute, there's always technical difficulties. And to be perfectly honest, I reached out to John and Eric today saying, hey guys, you got anything going on? How about we do a live stream here in a couple hours? So I appreciate you guys being available. I know we've been trying to do this for a while. So I'm definitely glad that we pulled it off. Hold on, I want to just hit, I got a super sticker from Our Fathers and Son Weekends, and it's a director's chair with the words on set on it. I love the super stickers. They're hilarious. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate that. Anyways, John, so now, so what's your thought on what Eric and I were talking about while you were away? No, I'm just kidding. Now, I do want to, I know a lot of people are going to tune into this for the topic that's on the video, and that's how to deal with the holidays. So, John, let's start with you. Especially coming from somebody who did deal with severe alienation. What advice do you have for people who are rolling into the holidays, who may have just last week got their restraining order, basically notifying them that for the rest of the remainder of the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, they're probably not going to see their kids? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 Christmases went by where I didn't have access to him at all. And the best advice I can say is, look, there is going to be hurt. There's nothing that we can say, the 3 of us, to other people to say, this is what you do to make the pain go away. There is going to be pain, but what the secret is compartmentalizing it, make it smaller, I actually think of those thoughts, the negative thoughts, and I put it in a box and I acknowledge it. But then what I do is I shrink that box down, make it real small, and I put it down beside me. So I know it's there, but I'm not making the focus of my life, because if you make that pain the focus of your life, you're going to be miserable. And I refused back then to allow this situation to basically hold the rest of my happiness in my life hostage. So acknowledge the pain, but put other things in the foreground. For instance, your other family, your other friends, your work, your hobbies, your passions. Concentrate on other things, and that will minimize the pain, because that's all you can really do.
Yeah, I think unless you've been through it, and in my situation, I thank God didn't have that problem, but people just don't, if they haven't experienced, they don't understand it. Now, Eric, I know you've experienced this. What's your advice for people?
So I have 4 daughters. 3 of them I have custody of. I do effective co-parenting with the mom. I've got 1 daughter that's turned 4 this past year. I'm yet to be able to spend a Christmas. The very first year I got to go and give some gifts, but it's been 3 years. Guys, this is a very hard time of year. There is a phrase that Robert Garza has coined called holiday hijacking. There's a lot of these tricks, even with John. John, when he was on the show, was talking about how that had happened to him right before the holidays. There's a temporary restraining order or some allegations that come in. Even if you can fight it off, most of the time, because it's the holidays, it's going to be before you can get anything done about it, and you're going to lose those holidays. When we're talking about alienation, the child is a weapon, and they're going to use it. They hate you more than they love the child. That's just the way it goes. These tricks are coming, and it's done to torment you. It's done to make you grieve over your children. The best thing I can say is realize it for what it is. document it, and make sure that you get out there and you celebrate your holidays and you're taking care of yourself. I know that's a hard thing and that's a hard ask for some of you guys, but if you know this is going on, just be prepared for it and get in here and make sure you got people that you can talk to. Everybody needs somebody to vent to and have that listening ear, and make sure that the people you're doing that with are ones that are going to build you up and be there for you.
That's a great point. And the other, well, go ahead, John.
If I can chime in, I'll add to that. Absolutely. And think of us, and gosh, I wish this channel of yours and yours, Eric's, was around back when I was going through all this. But we are your kindred spirits. So I really believe that it's almost like therapy by hanging out with us and discussing with us and sharing in the comments your story. It's really helpful. It's almost like therapy for you guys, free therapy, to just join us in this conversation and to know that you're not the only one going through this. There are hundreds of thousands of parents going through this exact same thing right now. So think of us as your kindred spirits. I view myself as just a couple of years ahead of you all out there that are right now alienated partially or completely. So this is a good group. All of us are in this together. So the more you participate, I think it lessens the pain.
Yeah. The other thing I just wanted to add to that is, and I know, Eric, you said, you haven't seen your child for 4 years, but most of the time well, not a short period of time. Most of the time within a year or two, things start to turn around. I mean, that doesn't mean your ex is going to start acting like a good human, but like for the folks on my channel, I've had a lot of people who have been in this situation who haven't seen their kids for a year, and then they finally get into court, and finally custody starts changing and visitation starts changing. So let me just do this. Don't make a mistake and take the bait and do something that derails everything, right? You can get so frustrated on this that you feel like, well, I've lost everything, so I might as well lash out, or I might as well say something that in the heat of the moment makes sense, but it costs you long term. You can win a battle and lose the war. You got to focus on what you're really trying to go for, and don't give up hope, because most of the time these things turn back around. So, and it's just important to say that, because I think most people, when they get in this, they feel so damn dark. It feels so hopeless that you're never going to be able to get through this, and you feel like you've lost everything.
Absolutely. And doing stuff like this helps, man. I mean, when I very first started going through it, I didn't know what parental alienation was. Probably all of us was that same way. You start reading up, kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together, saying this is what's going on. But coming in here and talking to other parents that are going through this, you can turn that pain into purpose, and being there for others is definitely healing. When I first started, I had a lot of hatred in my heart. I'm not going to lie to you. I had a lot of hatred in my heart. I've learned some forgiveness. I don't forgive the actions that were done, but there's something there that is causing this. And, again, I get out here and I fight for my child and other children every single day, because I believe in the message that we're saying right now, guys. Things are starting to turn around. We've got shared parenting in 3 different states right now where equality has been gave. We got 47 more to go. And we need everybody on here, hands on deck. I think something I would like to recommend, I would like to see more local parental alienation groups, people heading up local meetings where people can come, sit down, talk to each other. I think that would be very therapeutic. It might be somebody that we're talking to right now that's going to start one. I think that would be definitely good for people. There is more people that go through this than you can ever imagine. In every area, I don't care how small your city is, there's somebody experiencing this, and you can be there for each other.
That's outstanding, man. Hey, Eric, and I don't mean to put you on the spot on this, but normally during the holidays, you do some stuff. Are you doing that this year or not?
I had been thinking about that. I've kind of been in a tug of war inside of my own, heart right now, because I want to. Duane, as well as I do, man, getting this content out sometimes it's very time consuming. The past 2 years in a row, we did marathons. We've been on the road since the very beginning of this year. And it's hard doing dad talk if I'm not going to be able to be a dad. I kind of want to reserve the holidays for my kids that I do have around and spend some time with them. But if you have something going on, or if John's got something going on, I know that people will have a place that they can come in there and chat, as long as somebody's doing it and there's that outlet there. But I would really kind of like to sit back and spend some time with the family this year. I'm trying to lay low at the end of the year.
I should have asked you before I did that, so I apologize, guys.
Oh no, you're fine.
I would say, you have been going 9,000 miles an hour. I don't really know how you do it. So yeah, you definitely deserve a break. Have either of you guys seen anything in the comments that you want to hit? Because I'm trying to fly the bird over here, and I think I'm missing stuff. Have you seen anything that we need to cover?
I'm not able to see comments on my screen, Duane, for some reason.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a bummer.
Cattail said, understand the pain is for the purpose of ending these generational cycles of dysfunction. That's something that's really helped me understand alienation a lot more too, is looking at the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. I don't think that's enough of a conversation as it should be, realizing there might have been something in your ex's past, and, growing up, some parenting problems of their self that kind of caused the reaction that you're experiencing now. And if we start trying to look through that lens a little bit more, we can understand that, this would have happened to anybody they would have been with, right? Stop beating yourself up. There's something about parental alienation. I don't know, Duane, John, if you guys can relate to me saying this, even though we know we're doing everything that we can, just because we come up on the losing end, sometimes it feels like just this, all this guilt and 1,000 pounds on your shoulder that you're toting around every day because you can't get it off your mind. And we've got to learn some forgiveness for ourselves too. As long as we're getting out there and we're doing our best and we're fighting, your kid will realize that one day.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they will.
That's a great point, man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it puts a microscope on us as parents, but I turned that to my advantage. I thought, okay, if every single thing I say and do is going to be under a microscope, I'm going to make dang sure that I'm a really, really good dad. And I think without that microscope, I'd be a level down from the way I ended up as a dad, I believe. So I'm a big believer in taking any adversity and turning it into something positive or a passion or purpose. And that's exactly why I'm here today with you guys, because I started blogging about it and then writing a book about it, because I thought, wow, this is such an awful, evil thing to do to human beings. And there's not a lot of professional sport out there. I'm going to get out there and help people. So Eric said it earlier, take your pain and on some level or some way, if you can, turn it into a purpose.
That's outstanding. That is outstanding.
Take what was meant to break you and let it be what makes you.
It's funny you guys say that, because they're like, for me, when I started my thing, 5 years ago, it was to be able to take something so traumatic and turn it into something positive that helps people has been, very therapeutic for me. And just, like for me back in the day, looking around, like I think John, you mentioned it earlier, that you wish this stuff was available. My whole guiding force on this when I started it was, what would I have wished was out there when I was going through this to help me get through those dark days? And, that was kind of my focus on that. And, there's a lot of ways to turn these horrific experiences into something positive. It may not feel like it at the time, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
I was a truck driver, so I listened to podcasts going back and forth to work while I was at work. And I started looking up for stuff for people that are going through what we're talking about right now. There wasn't much out there. And that was kind of what, inspired me to do this. And I think everybody's got talents. I think that's one of the hardest questions we get. I'm sure you guys get it as well. How do I get involved? What do I do? Well, I don't know your talents and I don't know where your passions are, but everybody's got a place where this fits. Duane, I did see a comment. I wouldn't mind you pulling up if you would, from Nessa Sweets.
Let me see if I can find it. And what was it? Which one was it?
She said, I made a huge mistake by giving in. I reached a breaking point and now I'm being alienated. I think, hearing a little bit more of what people are going through, we understand why people end up giving up. society has looked at this as these are just deadbeats that don't want anything to do with their children. They're angry. They don't want to pay child support. But when you've done everything that you can through this system with parents like John Mast or Jonathan Vanderhagen, when you've done everything you can and you've gave all the money that you can give, I understand why some of these guys do that. But if there's anybody out there that's just felt like, man, I can't do this anymore, you got to keep getting in there, guys. You just got to keep getting in there. But, I just wanted to bring that comment up because I definitely understand the feeling.
And I made a video the other day about talking about, when is it the right time to take a step back? And I think, and John, I know we've discussed it in some of our collaborations before, but, and I think you can address that. There comes a time where sometimes you do have to take a step back, and it may not necessarily be a mistake because you can still turn it around. Do you want to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's one thing I did. I noticed, even though I was getting my son on alternating weekends, every time I pulled him up from his city to mine, there was always drama. The whole visitation was drama. And then when he was with me, there was a guilt factor that I could sense in him. It got so bad, the drama on his side, that I knew that he was starting to realize the image that's being painted dad at home is different than what I experience when I'm with him. I said to him at one point, I said, you know what, we're going to take a break. And I told him what I'm going to tell you right now. I said, there's been so much drama, just seeing his drama. I need a break. And I think you do too. And he actually nodded in agreement. He said, yeah, that sounds great. And then I said, when you're ready to see me, and I don't remember exactly, he's probably 11 or 12 at this point. And I said, when you're ready to see me again, I said, you let me know and I'll come down ASAP and come get you. So technically I wasn't, taking advantage of my court authorized time, but I needed that peace of mind, that break from the drama. And you know what, more importantly, he did too. So I remember exactly, it was about December when I had this conversation with him, and then I didn't hear from him until April, but I heard from him in April. He was coming up to my area of Texas, and that was so awesome to hear from him. And the break was important. If you need to do something like that and it's 6 months or a year, do it. You have to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. And to me, this is a form of self-love, of protecting your soul from this drama, from this bad energy, from the evilness that these people are doing to you. So absolutely take a break if you have to. In my case, it was 4 months. You might need to take a year off, but self-preservation is really important.
Well, and the thing I just want to throw in on that is you didn't just, not have any communications with him. There were still, you still would drop texts and stuff like that on a not like a daily basis, but right, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, we kept pinging each other with texts. So there was communications there. So it's not like I dropped off the radar cold turkey. Yeah,
I just wanted to mention that. What were you going to say, Eric?
I was going to ask John a question. And at what point in the process did you realize that was the step you needed to take?
I think that, I'm not quite sure, but I want to say it was that summer after that we had our full summer weeks together, that we got even closer. And at that point, the drama moving forward was, I can only guess, but I think he was able to stand up a little bit better on his own back home and to say, look, I want to see my dad. So the drama subsided as far as his expressiveness and his feeling like he was guilty spending time with me. So I really believe that was instrumental in us getting closer together.
Hold on, I'm just dealing with some crap in the comments. So if you guys go ahead and take care of it, I got to deal with this. Or just put a timeout. Just dealing with some trolls. So, go ahead.
You can't let this drama, this alienation, hold the rest of your happiness hostage. I'm really adamant about that. You cannot, because one day I think all of you guys will reconnect on some level, and when you do, you look back and go, "Shoot, I wish I would have handled it a little differently because I wasted a lot of negative energy in my brain cells in dealing with this stupid stuff." So there's going to be drama, but try to containerize it the best you can, and emphasize the good parts of your life, your your friends, your family, your loved ones, your job, your hobbies, your travel.
I think one of the things that people need to remember is this is not an instantaneous experience. It's people always say it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you need to remember that it's a long haul thing, unfortunately, and you got to make sure that the decisions you make help you get to where you're planning on going, 5, 6 years, 7 years down the road. You know what I mean?
That's correct. Exactly.
Absolutely. And be careful of the gaslighting too. They'll come in there and do everything they can to get you to react. And when you don't react, it gets more and more aggressive. And that's why I asked you about that, John. I got to that point myself. I realized every time I tried to communicate about when I could see my child, it was everything in the world except when I could see my child. And at first, the gaslighting, it got me. I mean, it got me because I didn't realize what I was going through. And over time, I started building up like, I'm not responding to this. I can't, because that drama will wear on you. So again, I think that goes back to having that forgiveness in yourself, and realizing if I got to take a break in order to keep my sanity and get in here so I can fight for my children, it's very important.
Well said.
Oh, I think I almost hit the wrong button. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, you guys have had, all of our experiences are similar, but they're a little bit different. Like for me, I wasn't completely alienated. I never lost reoccurring access to my kids, but that pain and the torment that I felt and how it sent me down into the most, dark spiral is no different than what everyone else has experienced. Now, I can look at it today in my experience and go, wow, mine compared to Eric with you, you're not seeing your youngest for 4 years, or even the crap you've had to deal with, John. But there's still a toll on this. So if you're looking at your story and your story's not, doesn't rise to the level of some of these other ones, and you feel bad about it, or you're questioning yourself, don't do that. These are gut-wrenching experiences that break you down to the core. And, some people are completely isolated and don't get to see their kids for a long period of time. Some of them have reoccurring access, and you have your ex just, every day, just boop, poking you right in the eye. And it causes all those emotions to flare up. So it's not, the experiences are everyone's experience is unique, but there's a lot of things that I guess dovetail together. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Many situations, it's just the names that are changed.
Man, ain't that the truth.
I think you start hearing it at first, there's several different scenarios, and some of these cases can be unique, but the tricks that they play are very much the same. Yeah.
Yep. It's almost like they read from the same playbook.
Oh my God. I used to make videos about that. They do. It's like, and what, and the good part about it is once you realize that and you start looking for information, that's why, my audience is like 50-50 men, men 50 and then 50% women. And I'll even have women say, oh my God, your experience dovetails with what I've experienced with, my ex-husband. And it's because these people follow the same damn playbook. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They do.
They are abusers. That's a good summary of all those traits. I have a post on my Facebook page. I think it's called "The Top Tactics of Alienating Parents," and it's about 30 long. And the amount of people, there's so many people that commented, "My ex checks off every single one of these," and it's just really mind blowing. I think the summary of this is that these people, by and large, are narcissistic human beings with no empathy for others, no true love for others. And this is why they're capable of doing this. And this just proves that there is no love for their child. Like Eric said earlier, this is a very important point. Just remember this. They despise you more than they love their own children. Because if they love their children more than you, they'll go, you know what? I can't stand him. I can't stand her, but I'm going to do the right thing and show respect for their father or their mother. That's the right thing to do. But these people are emotionally unhealthy, and they are, at the end of the day, they are abusers. They are abusers. They abuse children. And that's why we are here passionately fighting for these kids through you guys and helping you guys get your children back.
Yeah, Cattail says, yes, abuse is abuse, and that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let me go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, if you don't mind me asking you guys, what, in your opinion, would you say is one of the number one red flags that somebody might need to realize you're about to be experiencing alienation? Some of the warning signs before they start going through it.
The first one I would say,
yeah, go for it.
The first one is your son or daughter, or your children are going to start acting really weird. For me, it was on a phone. For you guys, it might be in person. When I say you guys, the audience watching, but you'll notice strange things happening and them acting really weird or talking in adult ways like that. That was the first indication to me. It's like, who's this person? That was my first indication. And that's very frequently the first one, is just, you'll see them emoting differently and acting differently around you. If you see them, of course.
That's that's John, you're spot on. And I was just talking with a coaching client the other day, or this is like, well, maybe a month ago, and things had been normal. And then all of a sudden things started acting strange. His youngest started, just completely acting weird. And at this point it's gone in a cycle, and he recognized, he's like, okay, something's getting ready to happen. So You're right. I think the kids are probably the first real indicator, and when kids start saying stuff like they don't want to, I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want, or whatever, or I get to choose. I mean, that's one I hear all the time. It's like, well, I'm 13 or I'm 14 or I'm whatever. And the court order doesn't apply to me anymore. And mommy says, or daddy says I can, and it's both. I don't have to come see you, and obviously the other parent is just sitting there smug and smiling and, or worse, pretending, oh, it's so sad. I just can't make them come see, that type of thing. And the key, I think, the thing I just want to add on that, if you start seeing that, you need to take a breath. You need to slow yourself down and really think about your next action, because it is so easy. It is so easy to get caught up in this and react and either say something to the kids or lash out and send that, 9-page email to the ex talking about, outlining everything they're doing. You got to be really careful to not do that, because most of the time that will blow up in your face. Did we just lose John? I think his camera just shut off. I don't see him.
I'll be right back.
Copy that. So technical difficulties.
Yes.
Anyways, one thing I just to hit a comment that I'm not going to highlight because of what was said, but I don't know if you guys, anyways, if you are really struggling with this right now, if this situation that you're dealing with is breaking you down, seek help. Look for a therapist. If you're in crisis, dial 911 or 999, whatever's appropriate in your area. You don't have to do this alone, and you don't need to make a decision right now under duress. I've talked about that in a lot of my old videos about the dark days, but these situations are serious. The self-deletion problem with people going through this, percentage-wise, is really high, and it's a serious issue. And I hope that my moderators are trying to help the person in the comments who's talking about that. But do you guys have anything? I mean, I know all of us have had people who have reached out with that. Any words of wisdom either one of you guys would like to mention on that?
Life is short. We have a limited time here on this earth as is. Cherish your life. Take care of your life. Take care of yourself. These situations that you're going through, I know there's going to be days you feel like I can't do this anymore. I can't get out of the bed. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do this. Those will be the moments later on that will make you a stronger person. You just got to endure it. It does seem like these storms come at us all at once, and it sucks. I know, I've been there, but if you keep working towards this, and like Duane was saying, find you a therapist. I'm going to tell you, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I had to go find a therapist, and I had so many thoughts in my head. I literally thought I was having a breakdown or going crazy. Yeah. And that, it took about 2 or 3 visits, but over time it really started helping me get it out there. So don't bottle all this in and realize life is precious. This is your book. You get to write the chapters. You get to write the words. Write the ending that you want.
And don't let them
Yeah,
win, too.
I agree. If you can find a good counselor, someone who specializes in dealing with personality disordered people, absolutely. I have my suspicions of most counselors. I think most counselors don't do much help at all, and they don't know what we're dealing with this. But if you can find one, and I certainly recommend go find one, but interview a bunch before you find somebody that can deal with this, and someone that deals with people that are dealing with narcissistic type people, borderline people, things like that. But you're going to have to interview a few before you find one.
He's right.
What I would say in the interim, John and I both know this person, but Chris Godinez from We Need to Talk with Chris. She's a licensed therapist out of Arizona. Her whole channel is focused on narcissistic abuse and trauma abuse recovery. She's a little raw, but a smaller channel. But I would encourage you to if you're in the immediate time, definitely look at some of her content because it could be very helpful. But yeah, finding the right therapist, and it's got to be the right one. For me, I found a trauma-based therapist that I didn't realize that's what her specialty was, and it was a game changer. And the one thing I just wanted to add is it is very common to feel this. I mean, I have to be careful on what I say, but there were some really bad days in my situation, and you could look at it externally and say, well, hey, dude, you got 50-50 custody. And, and even whenever you didn't have that, you had reoccurring access. This nearly broke me. One of the ways I survived this is I got angry and I'm like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue breathing every freaking day and I'm not going to quit. And sometimes that was not enough to keep, obviously I'm still here, but there were times where it was really bad. So, don't go through this alone. And don't think that the way you feel today is the way you're going to feel forever. So,
yeah. Chris Godinez, I 100% agree with you. I think of her almost like a counselor, a free counselor. Watch her stuff on YouTube. She speaks, like you said, she's raw. She drops some choice words in there, but she knows this inside and out because she was abused by both her narcissistic father and her narcissistic mother. And I listen to her every week. I would say about 2 or 3 hours. She's that good. I just absorb her information. That's almost like a free, great. Thanks for pulling that up. It's almost like free counseling from her. She's out of, I think, Arizona. So she can't give you one-on-ones. But if you are lucky enough to live in Arizona, she can do one-on-one counseling with you. But she goes through all of this stuff. I've learned more from her about dealing with abusers, narcissistic exes than any other single source. One of the best things she taught, or she teaches, and she drives this point home, is love is respect. Love is respect, and how it deals with us, which is if they really love their children, they'll respect their children and their desires and needs to be around their other parent, which again shows that there is no true natural beautiful love for their children. Love is respect. That's one quick example off the top of my head, but she's great. Subscribe to her, watch her videos. You'll learn more about your ex by listening to her than you'll with any other single source. She's that good.
Yeah. And I do a lot of collaborations with her. I mean, when I was doing my morning show, which I've had to stop this year, I would have her on at least once a month to cover a topic. So absolutely. Do you have Eric, you got anybody who you would recommend for people to look at for that? Not to put you on the spot.
I struggle with that a little bit, but because, John was telling the truth. You got to make sure that you're researching the right people and making sure somebody knows what's going on with parental alienation. A lot of these counselors don't. You got to vet them just like you do the attorneys. I'm sure I do, but just like right off the top of my head, not really.
Okay. But, oh man. I'm going
to have to check her out.
Yeah, you need to. She might be a good person to bring on. She's a great resource again, and she will watch her language when she's on another channel. She does that for me. She doesn't want to demonetize my entire channel. So, and YouTube actually harasses her a lot. I mean, most of her stuff gets demonetized probably because of how raw she actually is, which is really unfortunate. So. Anyways.
Seems to be going on a lot nowadays.
Yeah, it's so tough. I mean, on that, I don't know how that's affecting you, Eric, but I've been really lucky that there was a period of time where I was getting a lot of stuff flagged and demonetized. And just so anybody knows, I mean, YouTube will do this thing, and when they and it's not so much when you say demonetized, it's like, oh, I'm not making money up, because none of us are making a lot of money on this, right? This isn't exactly a lucrative career. But what happens is then it stops recommending your videos to people. So for people to see it and click on it, it diminishes that. That's why that's really a problem for content creators, is because if you get in that negative view on YouTube, then if you don't have a huge swelling or a huge base of people who are pushing your content, it just doesn't get seen, which is the reason why her channel's, in my opinion, has been it hasn't exploded the way it should, in my opinion.
There's so many different content creators right now. I've definitely felt it. Even, we're the biggest over on Facebook. The page is close to 400,000 followers now. We're lucky sometimes if they push the podcast out to 1,500 to 2,000 people. So you got to constantly be trying to get that content out there and find ways of making sure it reaches the people. I think it's common. They want you to pay to play. Even, there's a feature there on Facebook when you go to advertise, like, people who like my page. It's like, you want me to pay for people who follow me already? So making sure you get that content out there. And it's good, this word of mouth that we're doing right now, letting people know that this resource is out there. I think that sometimes can be one of the most effective things.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to do, there was one comment, let me see if I can pull it up. It was from Merge. And it says, how about a chat about the channels to stay away from? I'm not really going to jump into that, but what I do want to say is this. Everyone you look at, have an open mind to, right? And if don't just believe somebody because they're putting a video out. If it resonates and it helps you, let me do it this way. If it resonates and it helps you, great, stick with it. If you find at some point that the message is not helping you get to where you need to go, then it's okay to back off on it. And what I would even say, like, if somebody's been a longtime viewer of my channel, and you get to a point to where you're like, man, I don't like what Duane's saying, or it's rubbing me the wrong way. This isn't about any of us. This is about you guys getting your lives back. And it's like, for me, my number one goal is for you guys for the people watching this and listening to this, to have their life back, hopefully repair the relationship with their kids, even if that doesn't happen, but to get your life back and start living and not be watching any of this stuff. So, I'm sure all of us have opinions on channels that we would gravitate toward and channels that we wouldn't. Personally, I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to get into that. But I would say, if you are at a channel and the content does not is bothering you, move on to someone else. You don't have to make it a crusade to take someone down or expose them or whatever. Just move on to someone else, because maybe that channel is helping other people. Right? What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. I think you see a lot of that. It's kind of like, let's talk about this guy, hopefully get viewers back over here on our own. I won't point at any channels, specifically. Just, you're hard to tell you. You're hard to tell you who you're watching. I think stay away from the ones that promote violence. I don't think violence is the answer. We are loving parents. We are hurt parents that are trying to get our children back and to fight for equality. But we're starting to see a little bit more of an extreme movement I've been seeing over on our end that is wanting to promote this. This is the only way they're going to listen to us. I don't think that's the answer, and I would never condone that. So, but your heart will let you know who you're listening to.
What about you, John?
Yeah, I'd stay away. I mean, there's so many good content creators out there today. I agree with you. Just go with your gut and stick with the ones that resonate with you. And my thing is, I don't like people, even though they're coming out with a nice message, if they're angry and their blood is curdling with anger, that turns me off immediately, and I don't watch them. But that's just a personal thing for you guys to make. I can't think of a single channel right now that's big that I would say stay away from, because I get value from any channel I go to.
I just want to, mention with what you just said, John, when I was thinking about creating my channel, like over maybe 6 years ago, or a little less than 6 years ago now, I was looking for information. I was typing in the search things, and a lot of what I was finding was what you were talking about. People who are just like, oh, it's horrible. I've lost everything. My career's ruined. My kids don't care about me. And I mean, it was just like, it was draining me down just even listening to the story. I mean, the sad reality is that if you do not do the work to heal from this, you can absolutely get trapped for decades in the anger and the bitterness. And it's rightfully so. I mean, I've said this a lot. I mean, every one of us who's going through this, man to woman, has every right to be angry and bitter about this. But you have to, at some point, come to the realization that if you allow your ex in this scenario to occupy that negative space in your life, it will destroy your life. And the best victory is to get your life back. I mean, even if you've lost your kids and you never get to see them again, and that is a horrific, terrible thing, you have to find a way out of the darkness to get your life back and do something that is positive. Yes, you're going to have the grief of dealing with this experience, but you cannot allow somebody who's just hell-bent on being evil to do that to you, to destroy the remaining time you have. Like Eric said earlier, time is short. For me, there was a period of time where I'm like, I do not want to give this, in my situation, my ex, another second of my time. Unfortunately, it still took me about 1.5 years to make my peace with it to where I could do it. But that you have to.
Yeah, you can't allow them to destroy your overall happiness. You can't allow them to do that.
And it's hard to fight that. I mean, just so people understand, I mean, John's saying this and I absolutely agree with him, but it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. So, understand that there's work that has to be done to achieve that.
That's correct. Yeah. Cause naturally you're going to want to feel sorry for yourself and you are a true victim in this situation, but you're right. You have to find a way to control your emotions and to look at a bigger picture. For me, it was, I'm losing these battles, but I know one day I'm going to win the war. I know it. I knew it in my heart that one day if I stick in there and I don't give up, I'm going to win the war. But yeah, it takes a lot of mental toughness and mental willpower to do that. You're absolutely right, Duane.
Hey, John, I want to grab this. This is a question for you from Nessa. It says, John, I have a question. How was your son after the break you took? So do you want to, because this actually just dovetails with what we're talking about. It was really
awesome. He was excited to see me. We're excited to see each other. So it's almost like that separation created more joy between us. Imagine coming home from if you're a sailor along sailing, your family's there to greet you. It was that kind of thing. It was great. And he got it. The break was not me not wanting to see him. He knew that. He knew he knew exactly what I was talking about. He was tired of the drama too. So I think that break made him realize a few things. We never talked about it afterwards. But it was to answer your question directly. It was good. And we never took a break again after that.
That's, and I think that's important to remember that, these things can shift on a dime, right? You can make mistakes and your relationship with your child can go, and I'm actually dealing with this right now. You can have your relationship, almost feel like overnight it goes from a good, loving relationship to really stressed and pushed. And the same thing is normally it takes a little bit longer to undo that. But it's like, this is a long-term, this is an endurance thing, and that's really the key.
Being a divorced parent is hard. You get two different households with two different sets of rules. There might be a parent that wants to win a little bit more of that favor, starts doing a little extra, letting them get by with the rules. But yeah, you just got to be mindful of those things. As much as it sucks, there's going to be times where your kid might fall for it. But if you believe in your kid and you instill those morals and lessons and you love them, you got to trust that they will figure it out themselves.
The thing I want to add on to that is, and just so everyone understands, all three of us are not saying, appease your child or no. If you see something, let them get away with stuff. You still have to be true to your integrity, to your boundaries. And, and a lot of times kids in these scenarios, they will try to push that and do not, I mean, if you fall for that trap, I mean, like John, I mean, in your situation, you could have, instead of saying, take a break, you could have said, hey, you little brat, you know, this is the visitation, you're going to show up, and you could have forced it. And all that would have done is probably destroyed your relationship. If you would have done it incorrectly, you could have ensured that you didn't talk to your kid until he was in his late 20s, right?
Yeah. And unfortunately, I see a lot of parents doing that. They come in really aggressive, and you cannot come in aggressive at all. And you're just feeding to the narrative that you're dangerous or that you're unsafe. So I did the opposite. I just thought, you know what, I'm taking a break. That said, you have to feel comfortable enough with your son or daughter or children to be able to do that. I wouldn't do that, you know, after reconnecting a month into it. But yeah, there's a lot of give and take with this. In the end, here's a good overriding principle to have. And this is one I had. I knew that I would make my house a house of peace because that house was a house of drama. So I took pride in knowing that regardless of what was going on in his head, that he would know after a while that I can show up and spend time with dad, and it would be a peaceful experience. There would be no yelling in the home. There'd be no criticizing, nagging, stuff like that. So I took pride in knowing that as long as I can see him a few times a month, that one day he's going to see a divide and he's going to make his own decision on me.
Great point. I mean, and I think that's the key that people need to remember, because, you know, again, this is a long-term process, you know, and you gotta look at the long game. You gotta look, like the analogy I use, you know, I guess for Veterans Day, you know, talking military stuff, since I'm an Air Force guy, you know, you focus on the war, not the, you know, you look at the individual battles and you decide, is it worth it to fight it? And sometimes the answer is yes. And sometimes the answer is no. And, you know, you have to be strategic on it, because at the end of the day, it's the long-term, you know, it's the long-term goal on this, on what you're trying to achieve. Right?
Correct.
I'm glad you said that, Duane. Happy Veterans Day to any of our military out there. You know, I think it's a heartbreaker what they're going through in family court right now. These are guys that go and lead us on the battlefield and then come home and their service is used against them. We're seeing that more and more. Oh,
that happens all the time.
It's bad for anybody. It's bad for anybody, but our veterans are getting it the worst.
Yeah, deployments and all that stuff really complicate custody issues. It's you know, I think the military, I mean, it's good. I'm glad I guess I should have mentioned that at the beginning. For Veterans Day, but for the veterans out there who are still active duty, it adds a whole nother twist on this, because if you have a vindictive ex, they can utilize your PTSD against you. They can utilize your deployment status. You know, if you you know, most like Air Force deployments are 6 months, which is still a significant amount of time. Army and the other services, typically it's a year. I mean, Navy personnel are on the boats a lot. I mean, so there's built-in things to really screw with custody. And if you're dealing with somebody who's toxic and narcissistic and hell-bent on erasing you, it gives them a breeding ground for just trying to destroy your relationship. So thanks for mentioning that, Eric. I don't even know. I guess I don't even think about it that much. I posted my picture on Facebook today, and I felt, after I did it, I'm like, oh crap, I'm not doing this for, you know, thank you for your service. But I was just like, holy crap, I look like a baby in that picture.
But now, Duane, that you mentioned it, you got to pull up that picture.
That's it. Yes.
You got to pull up that picture. Come on.
I second it.
All right, I'll see if I can find it.
Come on.
So standby one. Let me see if I can. That's funny. It happened on my phone. It was one of those things where it was like, hey, your phone is all right. Here it is. I can. All right. Let me see if I can pull this up. There is me at 19.
Look at that.
And
it's the heartbreaker.
Yeah, I mean that's basic training, right? When they shave your head and they throw a thing on you and say, "Get in front of this thing and don't smile." That's hard, dude. That's like 31 years ago. I mean, or 32 years ago now. That's a lifetime. I mean, it's amazing. Anyways, yeah, that was that, and I posted that picture not to draw attention to it. It was just, it came up on my feed as a, hey, remember this? And I was just like, oh my God.
You should be proud of that, man.
Where did that kid go?
It's a great picture.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. That's hilarious.
How long was you in service, Duane?
A little less than 8 years. So I joined. I wanted to stay in the United States, but they sent me to a base in Spain called Moron Air Base, which was moron. So when I got orders for that, I thought it was a joke because I'm like, there is no base called MORON. This is a trick. And no, it wasn't.
I know a few people that might live there.
Oh really? Seriously?
I
mean, I know people there who live there now, but no,
it was a joke.
It was a good one. Anyways, it's the only Air Force base or air base that's still operational in Spain, but it was a great 3 years there. Love the people. It was a great experience. And from there, I ended up in a base in the desert in California, and that's where I've been. And it's been one hell of an experience. But back to the other topic. I mean, divorces, especially high conflict divorces, when you're in the military, is a hell that most people just don't even understand. And I've known a few people who've gone through that.
It's bad in this area. I live next to Fort Benning, not too far away. And I mean, just the amount of guys that are going through divorces, they come back from, back home, overseas, and the spouse is no longer in the home. And I mean, it's common. They're using that PTSD gets brought up in almost every single case. And that breaks my heart, man. It really does.
It makes it so rough because, you're already under a tremendous amount of stress, and then everything you worked for. I mean, let me back up. I mean, because this, I think, falls for everybody, and especially in this for the military. Your whole world gets ripped upside down. If you're the standard guy, you're providing for your family, you're working on your career, you're trying to do everything, and you come home one day and you've lost your family, you've lost your house, you've lost your money. Maybe you're losing your career because you can't even function. So, I mean, I was fortunate enough in my career that they were able to work with me, but I absolutely understand why a lot of people get fired, lose their jobs because they just can't focus. And then on top, and it's just a cascade of things. So then, now you've lost your career and you lost everything else. And while this is happening, you got family court saying, hey, scumbag, get back to work, and we're going to keep throwing the money that you're supposed to pay on arrears. And it just feels overwhelming. And if you're in that mode, guys, just take a breath. This sucks right now, but there's life on the other side of this. There is. It may not feel like it. Actually, talking about the military thing, there were times where sometimes I would look at it and say, you know what? There were guys who were stuck in, tiger cages in Vietnam. That's primarily what I was looking at it. Growing up, that was the war that I read about and everything. And it's like, there were a few times and hard times in my life where I'm like, okay, if somebody can survive that, I can survive this. And it would just be enough to get me through this day and then the next day and the next day. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it is just about perspective. You know what I mean?
It is. No, I mean, I got to agree with you. You go into work. I can only imagine going back overseas after going through this, but going to work when you're worried about your family breaking up, not knowing what you're coming home to.
Well, and the hard part about that is if you're in harm's way, you need to have your head on straight, because if you don't, things could go bad, right? You could end up injured, for lack of a better word, So anyways, I don't want to
These long deployments are a breeding ground for an ex who wants to get out and get out of the marriage and start brainwashing the kids against the dad, the mom, as the case may be. It's a perfect opportunity for them, and it's really hard to recover when that kid has been, under the spell of this narcissistic person for 6, 7, 8 months, and hearing all these lies and these, stories that make the child feel like a victim. That's really tough to recover from.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So I want to ask both you guys this question, and I think I know the answer, but whenever you're in that mode and you're being demonized, what are some things people can do to deal with that? Or, obviously, if you're in a situation where there's a restraining order or whatever, and you can't contact the kids, or even if there isn't, a lot of times when you call or if you send a letter, it's just going to get shredded or returned. what are some things that I'll start with Eric. Eric, what are some things somebody can do to try to mitigate that and maybe demonstrate that the narrative that's being said is not true?
Document. It's hard. I think most people take off to social media and start trying to plead their case there. As much as I hate saying this, you got to do your research on it, but a good attorney that really understands what's going on with false allegations and everything is going to be something that can go a long way for you. I mean, I look at John's case. I mean, he was going through that and went through it for 3 years. And Kevin, who's on my show and does the bi-weekly shows with us, he came in and within 3 months, they helped clear that up. But make sure you're documenting everything, because if you go to court and you can't prove it, they're not going to listen to it. And the allegations are just going to keep coming, and the restraining orders as well.
Yeah. What do you think, John? Oh, and just so people know, when Eric said John, he meant John's.
Yes, sorry,
John Mass. Sorry, I was. Yeah. So, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I would interview as many attorneys as you can that specialize in family law, because most of them are bad. Let's be honest. But there are good ones out there, and if you can find a good one, it's worth it. I know money is tight in a lot of cases, but pro se, that's a fancy term for going to court by yourself. Doesn't work in most situations. Interview as many lawyers as you can, and then go with your gut on who can lay out a path, who can say, yep, I've seen these parents all the time. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan. Here's how you're going to see your kids again. That's what I would do today if I had to relive this all over again. I would interview as many attorneys as I could. Plus, it means that if you're doing this initially and they haven't gotten an attorney yet, that means you're eliminating attorneys that they can hire the other side.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah. So if you interview all the family law attorneys in town first, when they come in to interview, they'll ask for conflict of interest questions. And that'll be one of them. And they'll go, oh, I'm sorry, we can't discuss this with you. So if you can find a good lawyer, and here's a key point, you got to spend time. You have to have your kids around you for a weekend at a time, let's say, for starters, because your son or daughter will come initially after they've been brainwashed and they're going to act really weird, but they can only keep that weirdness up for a couple hours. Then after that, their normal self comes out, and now they're acting normal around you. And when they start seeing that, wow, mom, dad is kind of normal, they'll never say it. They'll never say it to you. They'll never say it back home, of course, but they'll feel it. And once you have a few weekends like that, now they kind of know what to expect. And that's why you've got to get visitation. You've got to go into the court system. I know it's corrupt, but you got to fight like hell and do whatever it takes and find a lawyer who's got a roadmap for you, because any good lawyer has seen this before. Like we talked about, they all operate from the same template, right?
Yeah.
So find a lawyer that's got a plan that's going to get you back. Man, just a weekend with your kid after months and months is huge. It's a huge win. Yeah. And if you can get that to start with, it's not a matter of, well, I've only had 2 days out of, 85. That's the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah.
Baby steps. And now you had a good weekend with your kid, and they're going to come back. And deep down over the course of months, they're going to actually look forward to coming back to you. Because remember, your household is one of peace, not of drama. So they're going to look forward to actually seeing you, but they'll never vocalize it, of course.
John, I want to just pull this up real quick. So, because one of the things, the way I met you, and I don't remember what video it was, but someone recommended your channel to me, and you guys, you got to go check out his John Brainwashing Children's channel, because there was one video where you talked about this. What you just said, you went into more detail with more action items on how to maximize that little amount of time you have, and how you can really use it to punch through. And I can't remember what the name of the video was. What do you remember? You know which one I'm talking about?
I think it's my most popular video. Go to the videos tab right there.
Videos. Okay.
Right. And then on the right, sort by most popular.
Oh, primarily alienation, how to fight back, guys.
Yep. That one right there.
These two videos, if you're struggling with this, and let me just do this real quick too, because Nessa did a super chat. So let me pull this up on the screen. It says, from Nessa, thank you for sharing your experiences. It really does help. And John has some outstanding experiences on this, and go watch those videos because they are outstanding. And I mean, even when I was looking at it, I didn't have the same experience John had, but when I was listening to it, I'm like, holy crap, this guy gets it. And his plan of attack is, I mean, and what I liked about him, what you were saying, it was very similar to what I said, what I say, but you were able to take an alienation scenario, utilize those steps, and achieve the results, and actually get the results that you're talking about, which was, I mean, that's what we're all looking for. We're all looking for ways to put things in action to start affect change, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Duane. I appreciate it.
So, let's see. I'm trying to think. I'm just looking at some of the other. I gotta say, grab this just because Nessa put it up there. It says, "How about find an attorney that has lunch with the judge?"
You know, and a lot of people say that, and it is effective, but that's the problem with the system, right?
You know, but what I will say on this is why I think it's important to get an attorney in the area that deals with these judges, and not so much because of the personal interactions, but because then they know that Judge Smith, you know, has this bias, or he likes to hear things this way, you know, because what you don't want to do in a situation like this is go up and have somebody who is arguing cold in front of a judge that doesn't understand what they're looking for and presents their case or their strategy in a way that just irritates the crap out of the judge. So I think that's one of those things I learned the hard way because I hired an attorney initially outside my area from a recommendation. The local attorneys wouldn't even return the calls. Wouldn't answer my attorney. My attorney had no clue who the judges were, what they liked, what they didn't like, even like different courts will, some courts might be like, hey, we're going to make whoever makes the most money pay all the attorney fees. Some, they don't do it at all. Some it's like, okay, well, we'll let, a small amount, $2,000, like in my area, it was like, typically it was like $2,000 they'd make you pay. So it's important to know that. And if you have the time, go sit in on some of those cases to hear it. I mean, I had some people recommend, I couldn't pull it off, but I had a few friends of mine who said, man, you need to go take a day off and sit in the family court and see how it goes, see what the judges say, stuff like that. So, I mean, I do think it's important, but
I absolutely agree with that, Duane. And I'll add that here in Texas, I went down and I had, hearing after hearing that didn't go my way. And I pulled up the campaign records of the judge in the case. And guess who was a major contributor to this judge's former campaign opposing counsel in my case? So absolutely. If I were to do this all again, I'd go down to that small town and hire the biggest campaign contributor to this judge.
And the sad reality, and Eric, you were mentioning this before. I mean, it just goes to show that, or this is what I was going to say. We go into this with the crazy idea, and it's hard to say this now, the crazy idea that it's going to be fair, it's going to be just, I'm going to get my day in court. And I mean, I see Eric shaking his head. I mean, and the reality is you're going to walk out of that first day in court going, holy hell, what just happened? Most of the time anyways.
John, I got to attest to that. We, when we was down in Texas, we went around to a few of the different cities, and when the judges were doing the re-election campaigns, we showed up at the events. They didn't have any clue who we were, but we just sat there and watched. The whole event was nothing but attorneys that were contributing to these campaigns. And I know there's a lot of people that, that promote that. And I'm not saying it's not effective, but that's where I think we're going wrong with this system. We've got to start finding these little incentives and these things that are promoting what we're going through and calling it out for what it is. I think that should be conflict of interest myself, but it's very common.
All right, I think it was some kind of on this topic was just saying, couldn't you get him recused? And the problem is you have to know, right? I mean, if you don't know there's a conflict and you don't bring it up, the likelihood that they're going to say, there's a conflict of interest is probably not going to happen, to be honest.
Yeah, you can't in Texas. That's just the way the law is written, and that's just the way things work. There's no recusing in this case. Yeah. So,
well, and I think
it's a dirty system, and that's how it works here in Texas.
I think it works that way across the United States and in other countries. But Eric, you were talking about before when we started about the equal shared parenting. I think that's the key that's going to really change this is whenever it doesn't default to this, I have discretion. I'm family court, so I have discretion. Somebody is saying, you're a monster and there's no evidence from, there's nothing in the record, but you just said it. So I'm going to just say, okay, well, I'm going to grant all this stuff and we'll wait a year or 7 months before we get this finally in front of court and then make the decision. I think, because I know in my case, if it would have started out as 50-50, I would have taken a breath and I would have been I would have taken a pause back on family court. But because my ex was trying to leave the state, was saying I was abusive, the only thing she didn't do, she said everything up to the point of filing a restraining order, which I think the only reason she didn't do that is because I was driving the kids to school and she didn't want to do it. That type of thing. But it's, I think if we could switch the laws and make it to where the discretion, quote unquote, isn't there, that it could start making this better. Do you guys agree with me on that?
100%. All we're asking for is that to be a starting point. Of course, there's going to be a case where a mom or a dad doesn't need to be in the child's life, but we should be presumed equal from the start, right? Mm-hmm. And to see that they fight so hard against this, guys, over half of our legislators are attorneys. We talk about how this system feeds into this system. You know why this legislation is not passing. I've even seen it where they've got it all the way through Congress and the Senate, and the governor has vetoed these shared parenting bills after they get these donations in from the bar. 50-50 should be the starting point. It is not a tall ask. Divorce is an emotionally charged time. You're already breaking up with someone that's probably the parent of your child, someone that you once loved, and there's something there that created that conflict, and now we're putting him inside a family court and making him fuss over the house, the kids, the dog. Mm-hmm. Man. Yeah. It's horrible. Let's get some equality in there, and it's I just hate knowing that this is as big of a business as it is. And there's so many different people that got their hands involved in the pot. There's some of these states, guys, where the Senate picks the judges that sit on the bench. And I've seen it where a lot of these senators are picking the very judges that they go and argue their cases in front of because they're attorneys. How is that not conflict of interest? You want to talk about conflict of interest when it comes to these family court judges and what's going on. Seems like they're all in each other's back pockets. And, we've been trying to go around and raise awareness and asking them to change some of these things. But I think it's time we start putting a little bit more of a spotlight on who's getting what and where.
Well, and I
follow
the
money.
Ahead. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, Duane. Follow the money. If there's no conflict in family court, there is no more family court. So it's in their best interest, their careers, that there's continued drama. That's why, in my opinion, if we get 50-50 as a standard, that's huge, because that right there just wipes out a lot of the cases that will come before them.
Can I point out just a little bit of the hypocrisy on that now? Earlier this year, when we went to Texas, there was 200 parents that showed up to the Capitol trying to get 50-50 going in that state. 200 parents. It was one of the biggest showings. It was the biggest showing that I've ever seen with people coming together. They wouldn't do it. 200 parents testified. There was only like 8 people that testified against it, and every one of them were paid off by the bar. What did they do? They appeased it. Now you got the expanded standard, and I'm not trying to downplay that. I think that's amazing. Now it's like 45-55. That's became the standard there in Texas. But they had to make that less than 5%. It's almost 50-50. But as long as somebody is getting a little bit less time, we can keep that child support and that Title 4D money coming. That's the part that just really sets me on fire, because they said, as long as we can keep our money, we'll kind of give it to you a little bit closer. We should be out there like letting them know you're not going to get away with this. We are going to make sure that people know about it. That's why this awareness is so critical, guys, because for the most part, most of these people don't know about that. That should have been on every news channel there in Texas saying, hey, they're blocking this. They didn't let that last 5% get there. It's all about the money. John talks about follow the money. Go to followthemoney.org if you want to know where some of these contributions and stuff are coming through, from your legislators to your judges. Go in there. You can see that money trail, and it'll speak. Sorry, that gets me a little heated, guys, because I mean,
No,
we've been
man.
out there on the battlefields trying to get this going, and it seems like sometimes it's not that it's falling upon deaf ears. The legislation knows this is going on, and it's not about you having equal access to your kids. It's about keeping that business rolling.
Eric, but this is why what you're doing is so important. I mean, and I know sometimes people get, irritated or whatever, or jealous or whatever, what you're doing. But the key is, I think that the underlying thing on this is when this story becomes more approachable, right? Or more valid to be on national networks, and the conversation is there, that's when things are going to change. And and the sad part is, I mean, on its face value, everything you're talking about, people should look at and say, oh, well, this is just a slam dunk. But unfortunately, the reality is until it's on the tip of everybody's tongue and they realize, hey, this is a problem, for these guys, for like in Texas, for them to go that extra mile. Well, if most of the people they hear from are not talking about this, and maybe sometimes the only people they are hearing are coming across not necessarily communicating the best way and seem like they're on the fringe and may have some mental issues, that hurts this whole situation. So, and that's why what you're doing, Eric, I mean, I'm not to be trying to, just use this as a, hey, Eric's awesome because you're awesome, dude, that's why what you're doing is so effing important, is because, like I was thinking as you were talking, I mean, you've talked to legislatures who are going, holy crap, I lived this. I went through this. I was alienated from my dad. I was alienated from my mom. But so many people going through this feel like they're by themselves, and it's an anomaly. And I think whenever people start understanding that, holy crap, this happens a little more often than we thought, then it can come up as a conversation that, can be had more. I mean, anyways, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, man. We've talked to a ton of the legislators that have been through this. Everybody knows somebody that's been through it, or they've been through it themselves. And the more we get out there and make it a comfortable place where they can have these conversations, I say the most important thing we're doing with Dad Talk is trying to shift pop culture, the culture around what's going on, especially with dads. It's not that I discredit anything that's going on with moms, because moms go through this too, and it's equally as bad as when they go through it. But a lot of times these men are just looked at as angry, deadbeat dads that don't want to pay child support, and they use that to discredit us. I know millions of these fathers out there that are fighting tooth and nail trying to get in their children's lives. But until we shape that narrative, they use it to throw this legislation down every time we go in front of them. But, just making sure we get that word out there. And I tell you, it's hard because most of the people that watch us and watch these shows are people that have been through it, that don't have money. They don't have ways to support. Mm-hmm. And you got all these other issues, from economy to abortion, that has tons of money and tons of organizations that can put back into this and help get people elected. We're over here in the broken family law section, which I believe is one of the number one issues out there, the fatherless issue and what's going on with families. But we're not able to give it back. So if we can influence that culture and teach people about what we're going through, I think that'll be a way of reversing this thing. There's people that's been doing this for decades, to be honest with you, decades. We've got to do something new. We got to strategize.
But it's so funny. Do you notice how the people that the biggest advocates of all this and fighting against alienation isn't the so-called professionals? It's us. It's us on the front lines dealing with this. We're the ones, and thank God there's such a thing as social media, because we're able to talk like we are today and spread awareness. And it's why your channel has gone just through the roof, exploded in viewership, Eric, is because this is now a sounding board, and we can hold these people's feet to the fire. We can now go and protest judges. I went down and protested the judge in my case. With a couple other people. I hired court observers off of Craigslist to come in and take notes of my case. That's how bad the judge was with my case. So my point with all this is that with social media, we have power, and we're like a ray of sunshine shining on the rot that's going on in the family court system, because they're not helping us. The family court didn't do squat to help me in my case, help my son, most importantly. So it's up to us to fight, and and social media is a strong tool for us, as evidenced by you guys.
You know, one thing I just want to throw out there is, but it's the way you approach it that's really the key. There are so many people who are self-destructive. I'm not going to use any names, but I can just think of like three or four different cases off the top of my head where a person has imploded on themselves and they've like embraced flying the plane into the ground, and it helps nobody. It doesn't help them. It doesn't provide, I mean, yeah, they might get some visibility, but it discredits the whole thing. You know, I mean, this is almost like, you know, the old days when you'd have, you know, Gandhi or whatever doing a protest, or hell, even Martin Luther King, if I remember correctly, didn't he basically tell his people, hey, they're going to spit on us, they're going to beat us, and we have to make sure that we respond, you know, without reproach, because all it takes is one person or, you know, a couple of people to do it the wrong way, and you undermine your entire argument. And I, you know,
that's going to be the case that they talk about, is the one that does it wrong.
Absolutely.
You live in the cancel culture right now. They are looking for any way they can to discredit this. So every move you make is very, very important. I know people get lots of ideas when it comes to, you know, how to change family law. There's consequences that come along with those. Absolutely. They're going to try to find, again, the worst case. I watched Dr. Farrell on Dr. Phil not long ago. He had all these amazing men rights activists that was on there. And then at the end, there's this guy that comes on and talking about how women are no good and men don't need to be with them. It was just some of the most crazy stuff I'd ever heard. Dr. Farrell's over there just shaking his head. And I'm like, that was what they just made it look like men's rights is about, or like father's rights is about.
Absolutely.
You've got all these great scholars over here that you could talk about or talk to that has all this important information, but you gave this guy all that platform. And that's what we're fighting against, guys. It's not just the legislation. It's not just the family courts. It's the media. And we've got to step up and become the media. The social media is a powerful tool, but we got to be careful in how we use it.
Well, and Eric, I think in a lot of ways, this is a guess, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're kind of being tested with some of the smaller, you know, bigger media organizations who are interviewing you to see, you know, how you react. Because, you know, if somebody, I mean, obviously, if somebody wants to undermine the community, there's certain people they could pick and highlight and just wait for them to implode on themselves, and it'll just destroy the argument. But I mean, again, it goes back to what I think the success you're doing is you're giving credibility to this argument. What I was going to just add is, you know, like you take the MGTOW movement, men going their own way, which, I mean, sure, somebody, I see somebody just say, stay away from it. That's funny. The reality is there's so much hate and anger typically associated with that. It undermines your discussion. It undermines your credibility, because if you come across, like Eric was talking about, as someone who like all women are horrible and they're all hypergamous and, you know, all, you know, this, and this, well, you come across as somebody who seems like you're unhinged, and it doesn't help the argument. You have to be so careful of this. And it's really sad to watch a dad, and I'll just say a dad on this, right? It's sad to watch somebody who's losing, and instead of taking a step back, they embrace that. They start making decisions and start saying things that just, you know, destroy any chance they can get with their kids. Because the ex and their attorney are going to use that as evidence to say you are out of your mind and shouldn't be around the kids. You know what I mean? Ugh.
That's it.
Yep. It feeds into their narrative that you are unsafe, unloving, and they'll amplify anything you do wrong. They're going to amplify. They're going to amplify. So yeah, you got to watch you got to control your behaviors. Absolutely.
Well, John, what you're talking about, I mean, here's the reality: you do everything right, and they are still going to try to say the narrative that you did something wrong. If you do something to where they have a data point to show it, that's even worse. I mean, I think every one of us has experienced an interaction to where, you know, they say that, you know, oh, you're a scumbag, or you're an abuser, or you do this and you do that. And you're like, where the, you know, even for me, there were a period of time where I'm like, my God, I'm being accused of all this stuff that I didn't even get the benefit of trying to do. It's like, oh my God, and I can see how a guy or anybody in this pressure cooker can turn around and say, well, everyone thinks I'm this. I might as well, get the benefit of doing something. I mean, it's just, it's a horrible. I was labeled a
harasser in the court because my son had missed 50 days of school that particular year. So I went to the school board to protest, like, why aren't you guys holding mom accountable? He's missed 50 days, not 5, 15, 50 days of school. That was used against me in court as I'm harassing the school. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. Anything you do, they're going to twist and they're going to turn to your disadvantage. So yeah.
Hey, John, let me ask you this. Okay. So with the breadth of experience you have now, if the young John Steinbeck came to you and said, hey, I think I'm going to go to the school board and protest, what advice would you give him?
No, I would not have gone for full custody. I would not have protested the court. I would have not filed a writ of mandamus against the judge in my case, even though it was heard by the 10th Court of Appeals, and they very rarely take on cases. They took mine on. No, it was all a mistake. In hindsight, I wouldn't have done that. And the cool thing is, what I just told you guys, I've told my son. I've told him my biggest regrets going back in his childhood. I told him I should have not have gone for custody. I can only imagine the hell you had to go through. So back to your question, no. And the benefit of hindsight, I would not have been that aggressive. My odds of winning in court were very, very low to begin with. And it dragged him in through months and months of I can only imagine the turmoil he was dragged through. So no, I wouldn't have done that.
The one thing I just want to throw on that is, and I used to, some of my earlier videos, I talk about that. You got to pick your battles, right? I mean, like for me, I wanted full custody. I knew my kids would probably be better off. I even had my kid's therapist say, oh, you should, the kids needed to be with you, but they wouldn't put it on paper. But anyways, my point is this, is even back in the beginning, I knew that if I made the argument, I was trying to like, how do I protect my credibility, right? And I'm like, yeah, I think the kids would, like I'm sure, John, for you, you knew your son would be better off if you had full custody. But I looked at it and I said, man, I cannot string together an argument that makes cogent sense to do that. So, I mean, I was kind of hoping that maybe it would present itself, which it didn't, obviously. But I'm like, okay, so the only reasonable thing I can ask for is 50-50. Maybe today, if I was to start over and I knew a little bit more, I would be more strategic in some of the things I did, because I made my set of mistakes as well. But, and this is why my channel, Eric's channel, John's channel is really important, guys, especially if you've been through this, is leverage off of the successes other people have had. And I know that at the time, taking a step back and saying, okay, I'm not going to do this feels wrong because you're so frustrated. But again, you got to focus on the long-term goal. You have to focus on how do you win that war and not win a couple of battles, because that can cost you the war.
That's correct.
Eric, did I overtalk you? Were you going to say something?
No, man. I was just sitting there listening, my man.
Is there anything else we want to hit? I think we're kind of coming up on an hour and 40 minutes. You guys want to wrap this up, or is there something that I forgot to ask you guys that you want to hit?
No, it's been a great discussion. We start off with the whole Christmas thing coming up. Just do your best to accentuate the good things in your life. Try to minimize in your brain. Don't be obsessed with it if you can. Stop yourself. And there's going to be pain, but if you can minimize it, your peace of mind will be expanded, and it'll help take you through the holidays a little bit better.
What about you, Eric?
Hey, I know I get a little passionate when I was talking about some of the stuff that we was going through. That's just some of the stuff I've seen behind the scenes that's causing this. In all reality, most of these parents should never have to go through this in the first place.
Absolutely.
None of this you should have to be going through. And I'm sorry that you're having to. The holidays are a very rough time of year. I know that from experience. But again, find some people that you can be with and make sure you're taking care of yourself, and go out there and have as good a time and good as holidays as you can. Make sure you're documenting, But guys, we need you in here in this fight. That's the thing, is making sure that we're getting the awareness as to what's going on, because the world can't hear what you don't say. If you're not out there letting them know what's going on and how we've got to start changing these laws, I think what we've got now is what we're going to continue to have. So I urge you to get in here, get in the fight, and make sure you're taking care of yourself. And I appreciate both of you guys for having me on here today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing this. I want to just go back because I forgot to do this when, whoops, I hit the wrong button when John was talking. See, I tried to, now you have, I always try to promote Eric's YouTube page because it needs to grow. But John, where is it? I have your YouTube page up right now. Is that the best place for people to find you, or is it Facebook or someplace else?
I post a lot of memes that are only on Facebook. So just go over to Facebook, do a search for Brainwashing Children, follow me there, and you'll see my memes. A lot of them lately have been going viral, which is really nice to see. I'm very passionate. I create all the memes that I post, almost all of them. And a lot of the memes, believe it or not, are sourced through Chris Godina's and her discussions of narcissistic parents. So awesome. I'll hear her say something, I'll reformulate a little bit. And I'm really passionate about the fact that alienation is an act of evil. You won't hear any other professionals use those words. Yeah. You guys know it's true. I know it's true, but I'm not afraid to use that word. I'm not saying alienators are evil. I'm saying what they're doing is evil. And I do believe in a just God that one day they will have to pay a price. I believe that. If there's a just world, there will be a price paid for what they're doing, because they are wrecking the soul of an innocent child who just wants to have a normal relationship with a loving, fit parent. So Facebook is where most of my stuff is at, because I post more memes, graphics than I do videos. And
that's on, just do a search on Facebook for Brainwashing Children. Yep. I think it's the same icon that's currently up on the screen.
Yes, it is.
So check that out. Hey guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope everyone appreciated this. I know it was kind of impromptu, but I've been wanting to talk with the three of us in a live for a while, and I'm glad we were able to pull it off. We'll have to do this again more.
Let's do it again. You bet.
So, let's do it.
Thanks for inviting me, Duane.
Yeah. And everyone, you guys hang out, and let me just do this. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us today. Really enjoyed this conversation. I know it's tough, and there are some tough issues, but I hope it was helpful for you guys. I'm going to try if I can hit the right button here. I want to say thank you to the channel members who helped make this happen, who clicked the button down there and help keep the lights on, keep everything going. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Guys, hang in there. Don't let these people destroy you. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Don't give up. And we'll chat with you on the next one. Bye.